I'm Brenda Coleman, 30 years old, and I walked into a luxury car dealership in Philadelphia, never expecting a face-off with my family. It was the launch night of a sleek new model, an event buzzing with elite guests. I slipped into the showroom trying to blend in when I spotted my family there, to buy a car for my older brother. He locked eyes with me and sneered, "Here to clean the floors. All you can do here is swallow your envy, Brenda." His wife's sharp laugh cut through the air, and my parents' cold stares hit like daggers. They bragged about his latest financial deal, acting like I was invisible. I just smiled, my heart racing with a secret they'd never suspect. I knew something about this place that would shake them, but I held it close. Right then, my manager rushed over, bowing respectfully. "Sorry, Ms. Coleman. Your VIP room is ready as always." My father froze, my mother caught her breath, and their smug faces crumbled. I stayed silent, letting the moment burn. What they didn't know was about to turn their world upside down. Ever been underestimated by those who should know you best? Drop your story in the comments, smash that subscribe button, and stay tuned to see how I flipped the script. Growing up in Philadelphia, I was surrounded by expectations as heavy as the city's summer heat. I was Brenda Coleman, just 10 years old in 2005, living in a world where my family's name carried weight. Mother and father, always polished and poised, saw their legacy in my older brother Gregory. At 14, he was their golden child, already talking stocks and bonds over dinner, his eyes gleaming with ambition. They'd beam with pride, saying he'd take over the family's financial empire one day. My passion for cars, though, that was a different story. I'd spend hours sketching muscle cars and dreaming of sleek engines, but Mother would sigh, "Cars are for boys. Brenda not prestigious enough for a Coleman." Father agreed, dismissing my sketches as childish scribbles. Gregory smirked, calling my dreams grease monkey nonsense. Their words stung, but I didn't argue. I listened, storing their doubts like fuel. By 13, I found my escape. A local car dealership near our neighborhood became my haven. I'd sneak out after school, watching salespeople charm customers and mechanics tweak engines. One day, I begged the owner, Mr. Thompson, for a chance to help. He laughed, but let me sweep the floors and organize invoices. I was hooked. Every detail, the hum of a V8, the shine of a new hood, the art of a sale, felt alive to me. I wasn't just cleaning, I was learning. Mr. Thompson noticed my knack for spotting what customers wanted even as a kid. "You've got an eye for this, Brenda," he said, handing me a pricing guide to study. I soaked it up, memorizing specs and sales tactics. At 15, I was running errands for the dealership, earning a few bucks and my first taste of independence. I'd overhear customers rave about their dream cars, and I'd think, one day I'll make that happen. At home, though, my passion was a dirty secret. Mother caught me once with a car magazine, her face twisting like I'd betrayed her. "Focus on something worthy." "Brenda," she snapped, tossing it aside. Father was worse. He'd lecture me about the family's reputation, how finance was our path, not tinkering with machines. Gregory, now in high school, would mock me at every turn, saying I'd end up wiping oil off someone's garage floor. Their disapproval piled up, but I didn't bend. I'd hide my sketches under my bed, study automotive books late at night, and slip back to the dealership whenever I could. Those hours taught me more than any classroom: how to read people, how to sell a dream, how to build something from nothing. I wasn't just a kid with a hobby, I was finding my purpose. Looking back, those years shaped me. The dealership was my school, my rebellion against a family that saw me as less. Mother and father wanted a daughter who'd follow their script, but I was writing my own. Gregory's taunts only pushed me harder. I didn't know where my path would lead, but I knew cars were my future. That fire in me, born in those early days, would carry me far beyond their expectations. Years later, I'd carry that fire into a different kind of showdown. At 22, I made a choice that changed my life forever. In 2017, I was Brenda Coleman, a sophomore at the University of Pennsylvania, studying business to please mother and father. They'd always pushed me toward a respectable career, one that fit the Coleman name, something in finance, like Gregory. But every lecture on spreadsheets and stocks felt like a cage. My heart was still with cars, their curves and power calling me back to the dealership days of my teens. I'd sneak away to car shows, losing myself in the roar of engines, knowing this was my path. One night, I told mother and father I was dropping out to pursue the automotive industry. Their reaction was ice cold. "You're throwing away your future for a pipe dream." Father snapped, his voice heavy with disappointment. Mother's eyes narrowed. "You'll regret this, Brenda." Gregory, now climbing the ranks in finance, laughed outright. "You in cars. You'll be lucky to sell hubcaps." The fallout was swift. Father cut off my financial support, leaving me with nothing but a few $100s and a beat-up laptop. Mother stopped taking my calls, and Gregory sent me a smug text, "Good luck living in a garage." Their words burned, but I wasn't turning back. I moved into a cramped apartment in South Philly, scraping by on savings from my teenage jobs. Every dollar went to rent and ramen, but I was free to chase what I loved. I spent days scouring job boards, sending resumes to every dealership in the city. Most ignored me, but I kept pushing, fueled by the memory of those early days sweeping floors and studying sales. My break came in 2018 at an automotive trade show in Philadelphia. I'd saved up for a ticket, hoping to network. There, I met Vincent Price, a legend in the luxury car business, his sharp suit and sharper mind commanding the room. I approached him, nervous but bold, and pitched my ideas for improving customer experiences at high-end dealerships. He listened, his eyes narrowing, not with judgment but curiosity. "You've got fire, kid," Vincent said, handing me his card. "Come by my dealership tomorrow." I could barely sleep that night, replaying his words, knowing this was my shot. At Vincent's dealership, a gleaming hub of Bentleys and Lamborghinis, I started as a junior sales assistant. The work was grueling, long hours demanding clients endless paperwork, but I thrived. Vincent saw something in me, teaching me the art of closing deals and reading buyers' desires. I memorized every car's specs from torque to trim and practiced my pitch until it was flawless. By 2019, I was handling VIP clients, my confidence growing with every sale. I lived frugally, saving every penny, studying Vincent's strategies like a playbook. He'd pull me aside, sharing tips on negotiation or spotting market trends. "You're not just selling cars, Brenda," he'd say. "You're selling dreams." But the sting of my family's rejection lingered. Gregory would send mocking messages saying I was playing with toys while he sealed million-dollar deals. Mother and father refused to visit, dismissing my job as beneath them. Their doubt only sharpened my resolve. I wasn't just proving them wrong, I was building a future they couldn't imagine. Every late night, every rejected offer, every deal I closed pushed me closer to something bigger. Vincent's mentorship gave me the tools, but my drive came from within. By 24, I was ready to take on more than I ever thought possible. That night at the dealership was more charged than I could have imagined. It was 2025, the same evening I'd walked into the luxury car showroom in Philadelphia, and the air was thick with anticipation for the new model's unveiling. I was Brenda Coleman, 30 years old, navigating the crowd when I saw them, my family strutting in like they owned the place. They were there to buy a car for Gregory, their pride and joy. Mother Carol stood tall in her designer dress, her smile as sharp as ever. Father Walter adjusted his cufflinks, exuding old money confidence. Gregory, now a self-proclaimed finance mogul, led the way, his wife Vicky Ramsey clinging to his arm, her eyes scanning the room with smug satisfaction. They didn't know my role here, and I wasn't about to tell them, not yet. As I approached, Gregory spotted me first. His lips curled into a mocking grin. "Here to clean the floors. All you can do here is swallow your envy, Brenda." He said, his voice loud enough to draw glances. Vicky laughed, a high-pitched cackle that grated my nerves. "Honestly, Brenda, You look so out of place among all this luxury, she added, gesturing at the polished cars. Mother's gaze was cold, her words cutting. This isn't your world, dear. Stick to something simpler. Father nodded, his silence louder than any insult. They assumed I was just a bystander, maybe a low-level employee, at best crashing their moment of triumph. Gregory went on boasting about his latest deal, how he'd earned this car with his real success. Vicky chimed in, praising his brilliance, while Mother and Father soaked it up, their eyes never meeting mine. I just smiled, my pulse steady despite their words. I'd faced their scorn before, but this time was different. I held the upper hand even if they didn't know it. Their arrogance filled the room, their voices carrying over the hum of the crowd. I let them talk. Let them dig their own hole. Gregory pointed at a gleaming Bentley, saying it was perfect for a man of my stature. Vicky giggled, suggesting they'd need a second one for her. Mother agreed, insisting only the best would do for her son. Father stood back, nodding with approval, as if this was their rightful place. Their words were a familiar sting, but I stayed calm. My silence a shield. I knew what was coming, and it was worth the wait. Then it happened. Ronald Blake, my trusted manager, hurried through the crowd, his face apologetic as he reached me. He bowed slightly, his voice clear and professional. "Sorry, Ms. Coleman, your VIP room is ready as always." The words landed like a thunderclap. Gregory's smirk vanished, his jaw tightening. Vicky's laugh choked off, her eyes wide with confusion. Mother caught her breath, her hand clutching her purse. Father stood frozen, his cufflinks forgotten, his face pale. The crowd around us quieted, sensing the shift. Ronald, oblivious to the tension, continued. "The team's waiting for your final approval on the launch." I nodded, still smiling, letting the moment sink in. Gregory stammered, his voice unsteady. "What's this? Some kind of mistake?" Vicky jumped in, her tone defensive. "She's not. You can't mean her room." Mother tried to recover, her voice sharp but shaky. "Brenda, what's going on? Explain yourself." Father finally spoke, his words clipped. "This is absurd. She's no one here." Their attempts to brush it off only deepened their shock. They'd spent years dismissing me, assuming I'd never rise above their expectations. Now their world was crumbling, and I hadn't said a word. I could see it in their eyes. Panic, disbelief, a desperate need to rewrite the moment. I kept my silence, letting Ronald's words do the talking. My family's faces were a mix of denial and embarrassment, their confidence unraveling. Gregory tried to laugh it off, but it came out forced. "This is a joke, right? Brenda, tell me you're not—" He trailed off, unable to finish. Vicky's eyes darted around, searching for an explanation that wouldn't come. Mother's composure cracked, her lips trembling as she whispered to Father. He just stared at me, his usual authority gone. The truth was out, and it hit them harder than any argument I could have made. I didn't need to boast or explain my presence here. Ronald's deference said it all. As the crowd resumed its buzz, I turned to walk toward the VIP room, leaving my family in their stunned silence. They'd underestimated me for years, but this moment wasn't about revenge. It was about truth. Their words had stung, but I'd built something they couldn't ignore. I didn't look back, knowing they'd follow their questions unanswered. That night wasn't over, and neither was our story. The air in the dealership felt heavier after Ronald's words. I standing in the VIP room's doorway as my family's stunned faces stared back at me. The crowd's murmurs faded, and all eyes were on us. Mother Carol clutched her purse, her composure fraying. Father Walter stood rigid, his usual authority shaken. Gregory's smirk was gone, replaced by a flicker of unease. Vicky Ramsey, his wife, fidgeted, her confidence unraveling. They'd spent years dismissing me, but now the truth was out, and I was done staying silent. I stepped forward, my voice steady but sharp. "You've spent my whole life telling me I'd never amount to anything," I said, locking eyes with Mother. "You called my dreams childish, said I'd never belong in a place like this." I turned to Father. You agreed, always pushing me to fit your mold, never once asking what I wanted. Gregory shifted, but I didn't let him interrupt. And you, Gregory, mocked me every chance you got, called my passion. A joke, said I'd end up scrubbing floors. Vicky opened her mouth, but I cut her off. Don't, Vicky. You laughed right along with him, acting like I was beneath you. My words hung in the air, each one a release of years of pent-up frustration. I wasn't yelling, I didn't need to. The truth was loud enough. Mother's face paled, but she tried to regain control. Brenda, we only wanted the best for you, she said, her voice trembling. You were so stubborn, chasing cars instead of a real career. Father nodded, his tone defensive. We thought you'd fail, Brenda. We were protecting you. Gregory jumped in, his voice forced. This doesn't change anything. You got lucky, that's all. Vicky's eyes darted to him, then back to me, her words weak. We didn't know. We didn't mean it like that. Their apologies were hollow, a scramble to save face in front of the crowd. I shook my head, unmoved. You don't get to rewrite the past now, I said. You never believed in me, and I don't need your approval anymore. Before they could respond, Joyce Carter, my lead designer, stepped forward. At 38, Joyce was a force, sharp, creative, and fiercely loyal. Ms. Coleman didn't just build this dealership, she said, her voice ringing with pride. She designed the exclusive model we're launching tonight. The crowd murmured, impressed. Freddie Lang, my head of sales, joined her, his 32-year-old energy infectious. Brenda's vision brought us here, he said. She worked with engineers, pushed for innovation, and made this car a reality. Connie Hart, my marketing director, only 29 but brilliant, added, she's the heart of this place. Every client knows her name. Their words weren't just support, they were proof of what I'd built, a legacy my family couldn't dismiss. Gregory's face reddened, his voice rising. You designing cars? That's ridiculous. But the crowd's attention was on Joyce, Freddie, and Connie, their confidence drowning out his denial. Mother tried again, her tone softer. Brenda, we're proud of you, really. Let's talk about this. Father chimed in, his voice strained. We can move past this as a family. Vicky nodded, her smile forced. We didn't realize how far you'd come. Their words felt like a last-ditch effort to salvage their pride, but I wasn't buying it. You're only saying that because you're standing in my dealership, I said, my voice firm. I built this without you, despite you. Your pride means nothing to me now. The room was silent, the weight of my words settling over everyone. I turned to Joyce, Freddie, and Connie, nodding my thanks. They stood by me, not out of obligation, but because they believed in what we'd created together. Gregory clenched his fists, his ego bruised. You think you're better than us now, he snapped. I met his gaze, unflinching. I don't need to be better than you, Gregory. I'm enough. Mother's eyes glistened, but I didn't waver. Father looked away, unable to meet my stare. Vicky's hands trembled, her usual poise gone. They'd come here to celebrate Gregory, but now they were facing the daughter they'd underestimated for years. I walked toward the center of the showroom where the new model gleamed under the lights. This car, I said, addressing the crowd but loud enough for my family to hear, represents years of work, not just mine, but my team's. We didn't wait for permission, we built it. The audience applauded their approval, a stark contrast to my family's silence. Joyce whispered, You've got this, Brenda. Freddie grinned, giving me a nod. Connie handed me a tablet with the final launch details, her smile unwavering. Their support was my strength, a reminder that I'd found a family in those who valued me. As I prepared to unveil the car, I glanced at my family one last time. They stood together, isolated in their shock, their apologies unanswered. I didn't need their regret or their praise. I'd spent years proving myself to myself, and that was enough. The crowd's anticipation grew, and I stepped forward, ready to show the world what I'd built. 2 weeks after that explosive night, the fallout began to unfold. I standing in a Philadelphia convention center, my heart pounding with pride. The annual Automotive Excellence Awards had named me Outstanding Dealership Owner, an honor that echoed through the industry. The room buzzed with applause as I accepted the gleaming trophy, my name flashing across screens. Social media erupted, posts on X hailed my journey. Local papers ran headlines about the self-made woman behind Philly's top luxury dealership. My team, Joyce, Freddie, Connie, stood by me, their smiles wide as we celebrated years of hard work. But for my family, the spotlight wasn't so kind. Word of the dealership incident had spread like wildfire. Clips of Gregory's arrogant display, his loud boasts about his real success, and his sneering dismissal of me as a nobody circulated online, shared by attendees who'd overheard. The posts didn't just mock his words, they exposed his character. Gregory, always the golden child, had built his reputation on charm and family name, but now the world saw him for what he was, a man who belittled others to feel big. His latest business venture, a financial firm he'd touted as untouchable, was unraveling too. I'd heard whispers of his mismanagement, careless investments in risky tech startups, ignored audits, and mounting debts. The numbers didn't lie, and neither did the headlines. A local business journal ran a piece titled "Coleman Heirs Firm Faces Financial Ruin," detailing how his reckless decisions had cost investors millions. The real blow came at the awards event. Martin Wells, a titan in the investment world, was in the audience, his sharp eyes taking in every detail. I'd met Martin briefly years ago through Vincent, and he'd been impressed by my drive. Gregory, desperate to secure Martin's backing for his failing firm, had arranged a meeting that night, banking on his usual swagger to seal the deal. But Martin had seen the X posts, watched the clips of Gregory's behavior at my dealership. He'd also done his homework digging into Gregory's financials. When Gregory approached, all polished smiles and handshakes, Martin cut him off. "I don't work with people who lack integrity." Martin said, his voice calm but final. "Your numbers are a mess and your attitude is worse." Gregory's face fell, his confidence crumbling as Martin walked away, leaving him stranded in a sea of onlookers. For Mother and Father Carol and Walter, the consequences were just as brutal. They'd spent decades parading Gregory as the perfect heir, boasting to their high society friends about his brilliance. Their social circle, old money families, charity board members, had lapped it up, nodding along at their tales of Gregory's success. But now those same friends whispered behind their backs. The story of my triumph, paired with Gregory's public humiliation, was impossible to ignore. Posts on X didn't just praise me, they questioned how Carol and Walter could have underestimated their own daughter while propping up a son whose arrogance outstripped his ability. Invitations to galas dried up, their phone calls went unanswered, and their usual spots at exclusive events were suddenly unavailable. Mother's carefully curated image as a flawless matriarch was cracking, and Father's stoic pride couldn't shield him from the gossip. I didn't revel in their downfall, but I felt no pity either. They'd chosen to bet on Gregory to dismiss me as a failure, and now they were paying the price. Vicky, Gregory's wife, tried to salvage their image, posting on X about family unity and misunderstandings, but the comments tore her apart. "Your husband mocked his sister in public," one reply read. "No wonder she outshone him." Vicky's attempts to spin the narrative only drew more attention to their shame. Gregory, meanwhile, withdrew his usual bravado, replaced by sullen silence. I heard from a mutual contact that he'd been scrambling to find new investors, but his reputation was too damaged. The man who'd once called my dreams grease monkey nonsense was now facing the wreckage of his own ambition. As for me, the awards night was a milestone, but not the end. The recognition validated everything I'd built: my dealership, my exclusive car design, my team's loyalty. Joyce sent me a text after the ceremony. "You showed them all, Brenda." Freddie and Connie echoed her, their pride in our shared success palpable. The media coverage brought a flood of new clients, and my dealership's name became synonymous with innovation. I wasn't just a success story. I was a force in the industry, someone who'd turned rejection into fuel. My family's missteps had no place in that victory. Mother and father tried reaching out, leaving voicemails about reconnecting and making things right. I didn't respond. Their words were too late, their motives too clear. Gregory sent a single message, a half-hearted congrats that felt more like a surrender than an olive branch. I left it unread. The world had seen who I was, and more importantly, I knew who I was. Their approval was irrelevant now. A week after my award, the tension with my family boiled over. I was Brenda Coleman, 30 years old, working late at my Philadelphia dealership, my desk cluttered with congratulatory notes from clients. My phone pinged relentlessly with notifications, X posts, emails, even messages from industry leaders, all celebrating my rise as a trailblazer in the automotive world. But buried in the flood of support were venomous attacks from the people who should have known me best, my family. Carol, my mother, took to X first, her words dripping with resentment. She posted a thread accusing me of parading my success to shame them, claiming I'd forgotten the sacrifices we made for her. Walter? My father echoed her, tweeting that I'd twisted the truth to paint them as villains, insisting my achievements were built on their guidance. Gregory, still reeling from his own downfall, called me a self-obsessed opportunist in a biting post, suggesting I'd manipulated the media to inflate my reputation. Vicky Ramsey, his wife, shared a family photo with a caption about values over vanity, implying I'd traded loyalty for fame. Each post was a calculated jab designed to tarnish my name and salvage their pride. Their accusations hit like a punch, but I refused to flinch. I'd spent my life proving them wrong, and their words now only deepened my resolve. My phone lit up with their calls, mother's voice clipped and demanding, left a voicemail, "Brenda, you owe us a conversation." Father's message was colder. "This public spectacle needs to end." Gregory texted a curt, "Let's clear the air," while Vicky sent nothing, her silence louder than her posts. Their apologies, if you could call them that, were empty, a last-ditch effort to control the narrative. I ignored them all, deleting their messages without a second thought. I didn't need their validation, I never had. The public's response was immediate and fierce. My story had struck a chord, amplified by local news calling me a symbol of perseverance. Ex-users rallied behind me, flooding my family's posts with sharp rebukes. A longtime client tweeted, "Brenda worked for every win. Her family's just bitter they bet on the wrong horse." A local mechanic I'd mentored shared, "The Colemans trashed her dreams, now they're mad she made it." Customers posted glowing reviews of my dealership, recounting how I'd personally ensured their satisfaction, from customizing cars to offering fair deals. One viral thread from a young entrepreneur read, "Brenda Coleman's hustle is real. Her family's envy is pathetic." My family's posts backfired spectacularly. Gregory's tweet was drowned in replies, exposing his hypocrisy. "You called her a nobody, now you're crying foul," one user wrote. Mother's thread drew mockery with comments like, "You didn't support her, but now you want a piece of her glory." Father's attempt to discredit me sparked memes, one pairing his tweet with my award speech captioned, "When your daughter's success stings more than your pride." Vicky's family photo was met with sarcasm. "Nice try, but loyalty doesn't mean dragging your sister-in-law online." The internet turned their accusations into fuel for my support, each comment cementing their disgrace. I stayed focused, letting my work speak for me. Joyce, Freddie, and Connie, my trusted team, kept me centered, sharing the outpouring of encouragement from our community. "They're digging their own grave," Freddie said, handing me a printout of client testimonials. I nodded, grateful for the family I'd chosen. The Colemans' attempt to smear me only highlighted their jealousy, and the world saw it clearly. Their posts meant to wound, instead deepened their isolation. Mother and father went quiet on X after the backlash, their retreat a sign of defeat. Gregory's posts dwindled, his usual arrogance reduced to weak deflections. Vicky's final tweet begged for understanding, but it was too late, the public had chosen sides. I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. My life, my team, my legacy were proof enough of who I was. A month after the online storm, I made a choice that felt like freedom. I stood in my Philadelphia dealership surrounded by the hum of activity cars gleaming under showroom lights. My team bustling with purpose. I'd blocked Mother, Father Gregory and Vicky on every platform, severing the last threads of contact. Their calls had stopped, their messages unanswered, their presence erased from my life. I didn't need their apologies or their judgment. My path was mine alone. My focus turned to the future, to the dealership that had become my legacy. Business was thriving, clients streamed in, drawn by our reputation for excellence and my story of resilience. Joyce, Freddie, and Connie were more than colleagues. They were my chosen family, their support unwavering as we navigated record sales. But I wanted to do more, to give back in a way that mattered. That's when I launched the Drive Forward program, a training initiative for young people passionate about cars. I'd seen too many kids with big dreams dismissed just as I'd been. This was my chance to change that. The program took shape quickly. We set up workshops in a repurposed garage behind the dealership where teens learned everything from engine mechanics to dealership operations. I taught classes myself, sharing the skills that had carried me through years of doubt. One student, a quiet 17-year-old named Marcus, reminded me of myself, eager, underestimated, hungry to prove himself. When he rebuilt his first engine, his grin lit up the room. "You believed in me?" he said, shaking my hand. I smiled, knowing I'd given him what my family never gave me a chance to shine. Word of the program spread. Local schools sent students, community leaders praised the effort, and ex-posts buzzed with photos of our workshops captioned with stories of kids finding their calling. A local news outlet covered our first graduate showcase where participants presented restored cars to a cheering crowd. The headline read, "Philly Dealer Empowers Next Generation," and for the first time I felt my work ripple beyond the showroom. My team celebrated with me, Connie raising a toast. To building futures, not just cars. I laughed, clinking glasses, my heart full. Cutting ties with my family wasn't easy, but it was necessary. Mother and father had built their world on appearances, Gregory on arrogance, Vicky on loyalty to a flawed cause. I didn't hate them, I simply didn't need them. Their voices, once so loud in my head, had faded. I'd spent years chasing their approval only to realize it was a cage. My worth wasn't tied to their validation or their name. It came from the life I'd built, the people I'd uplifted, the dreams I'd turned into reality. The lesson was clear: follow your passion no matter who doubts you. I'd faced their scorn, their dismissal, their attempts to tear me down. Each time I'd chosen to keep going, to carve my own path. The dealership, the program, the community I'd fostered, they were proof that no one's biases could define me. I was enough. As I locked up the dealership one evening, the city skyline glowing beyond the windows, I felt a quiet peace. The road ahead was mine to shape.